Hi. Okay. So this is me. I already introduced myself. That's my daughter, Ruby. She's 9. She's high anxiety. I am there with you in the trenches. It's hard, and I love her to pieces, and it's extremely hard to have a nervous kid who things are hard for. So I'm here today to help sport parents who want to know how to help their athlete through fear so they can do what their bodies are capable of. A lot of the time you see these very capable bodies that are just not doing what they can do. You want her to believe in herself like you believe in her. You want her to get back to having fun without worrying about the next setback. And you want her to enjoy, maximize her potential so she can ride that wave as long as she wants to. It's not about she has to get somewhere, but that she can, finish her sport on her terms and come out the other side not struggling. Okay, so Target is my home away from home. Anyone here Target fans? So imagine for a moment that you are walking through Target with your gymnast and someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, have you heard about the scholarship opportunity? Do you want to win a full scholarship to the college of your choice?" And you're like, "Absolutely, yes, I do. I have not been putting away like I thought I would have to that college because of gymnastics." The first athlete who breaks through their mental block and does their problem skill without fear wins. So think about that. You go, okay, if my kid breaks through her mental block really fast, she gets a college scholarship. What would you do? What would your strategy be? Okay. Here's Nancy. This is no judgment, people, no judgment whatsoever. We call her nagging Nancy. And this is what she typically does. She would immediately feel sick, worrying about her daughter being disappointed. Oh my gosh, she probably won't get it. Then she'd read a ton of stuff online. Then she would show her videos of everything that she did before. And look, you did it before and you're so great. And then she'd be like, get out of your head, be positive, and remind her daughter just how much is riding on this and say, just go do it. Raise your hand if that might be the approach that you would take. It's okay. Most people, this is sort of what we're given, right? As tools, as parents, that you just be positive and you got this. And look, you're so great. Then there is Erin, and she's the best mom ever. And she understands the fear that's holding her athlete back. She knows exactly what to say. She knows what not to say if her daughter gets upset. She does not add unnecessary pressure. She inspires her athlete to take initiative, and she trusts her athlete's process. So imagine that you're in a situation where they literally have 3 weeks until a meet and they're not doing that skill, or 2 weeks, or 8 days. And this is how you are. That's the goal. So, which one are you? Most people find themselves somewhere in between, but many people, we're more on the Nancy side because that's just how, I know you got to get chair brushed and you got to go to gym and you got to do you just got to do the thing and it's going to be fine. And that is unfortunately not what people need. So I worked with athletes one-on-one for years before I started educating parents. And the reason that I started educating parents was because I would have these kids doing this process that I know worked, and they weren't getting over their fear. And it wasn't a coach issue. Often it was, but when it wasn't, it was like we'd have these coaches meetings and be like, why is this one kid still stuck? And in those situations where it wasn't the coach, it was the parent. And they were giving these pep talk lectures and they were saying, just go for it. And they were asking in the car, did you go for it today? And when they dropped him off, go get your back handspring. You got this. I love you. And those things were putting so much pressure on the kids that they stayed stuck. So that's when we completed the mental block breakthrough method. And we won't work with a kid one-on-one whose parent isn't willing to do the training, because it's like, if you're in an abusive gym or have a parent who loves you so much but is doing things that are putting pressure on you, it's going to make our job hard. And we just want to make it easy. So this is how we created the mental block breakthrough method, and now athletes are able to get their confidence back and keep it back and manage those dips in confidence. So these moms were ditching the Nancy approach, and dads, sorry, I keep saying moms. So if you'd like to ditch the approach, let's get into it. So the first mistake that people make is trying to motivate their athletes. There's this assumption that if she wants it bad enough, she'll go, or she's just not trying hard enough. So be honest. Raise your hand if you've ever had your athlete who's afraid of something look like they are not trying it at practice. There's a lot of chalk bin. There's a lot of chatting. There's a lot of taping and icing and bathroom and water. And it looks like they're not motivated. It's like, well, how are you going to get it if you don't try? So here's the common misconception. They're not motivated enough to try because they're not putting enough effort in. You see them not putting effort in from your perspective. Here's what's actually happening. They are in a fight, flight, freeze. And so that when your brain senses a threat, so that's my tiger. This is the threat to your safety. You have three things that you do. You either fight, get ready to fight that tiger, you get tense, you get, strong and laser focused on fighting that thing, you run away, or you play dead. And when kids are freezing up on skills, they have gotten so far beyond the fight or flight that they have actually frozen. And this is what happens actually regularly in these scary sports. So when you've got this problem skill and you're in flight mode, you're like, oh, my feet are sweaty, I got to wipe them. So I was a sweat wiper. I grew up in Southern California. It was very hot. And I was like wiping hair, fixing the hair, distracted. Pain. I need more chalk. They're not doing this on purpose. Their brain is sending them into flight mode and going, there's no hope. I'm not walking toward that tiger. I need to go home. Mom, I have a stomach ache. Pick me up. Those are things that they're not doing consciously. It's what's happening because their brain is trying to keep them safe. So then we've got the problem skill, and then we have deadlines, which is, everyone's favorite way of motivating, right? Well, you have 8 practices, and if you don't do it, then you can't compete, which then creates another threat. Then we've got reminders. Don't forget, go do it today. That's like, don't forget, I also am a tiger, reminding you. Questions. What are you afraid of? What's going on? Why didn't you go? And then they're just like, I don't know, because when they're in that freeze mode, their thinking brain is literally offline. They don't have access to their rational brain. So they don't know. When they say, I don't know, they're not lying. They usually don't actually know. Bribes, which means there's one parent offered her kid a kitten. And it created so much stress and so much pressure that this poor thing, we finally were like, Mom, please take the kitten off the table. And then she immediately did well. Because there's so much stress of, if I don't get the kitten, I will die, which then the brain is more threats. And then the yelling, like, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to do this anymore. If we're going to be like, if you're not having fun, why are we doing this? So there's all these tigers in the room now with these sort of motivation strategies, ultimatums, lectures, and the brain's like, I am out of here. And they just shut down. So we keep trying to push our kids toward their scary skills. What happens? They shut down and they pull away from you. Okay, raise your hand if this sounds familiar. Okay, yeah, this is kind of the thing we all do. So if you do this, it's just you're doing what parents do because they don't have other information. Second mistake, encouraging them to hurry up and do the skill. So have you ever said, just push through the fear, don't think about it, just go. If you want it bad enough. Coaches, this is a lot of things that we resort to. And then what happens is the athletes do what I call the chuck and pray method, because they have a deadline and they have to do it, or else they are left behind and their team moves up without them, or else they are isolated and don't get to compete that event, which are things that an adolescent brain is terrified of. They're social creatures and they just want to fit in and be the same and be involved. And so they're like, okay, I'd rather get hurt physically than emotionally. What happens though is they will chuck it and they will do the skill once. And this is like mowing weeds. It looks like the problem has been solved. They do it once. They do it out of meat. They do it the week before. They do it under intense pressure or under a threat. And then you're like, oh, phew, she's got it. Okay, good, moving on. And then she does it once. It feels terrifying. Her brain is like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that again. And then they show up the next day and can't do it. So raise your hand if that's ever happened, where they do it and then everyone's like, phew, we solved it. And then the next day they can't do it. You're like, oh my gosh, I want to hide under a rock. So if you don't remove the root, the problem will keep coming back. And this is not about the skill. That's the thing here. It's never about the skill. It's about the faulty mindset that's underneath it. So the third mistake is taking a break from it. And a lot of people, like, I heard a coach that was like, you're not doing bars until you get your back walkover on beam. Like, what? Why? Because there was a flyaway issue on bars. So we're just not going to work on that so it doesn't stress you out. And we're going to just do this. And then it was complete disaster. Another trampoline tumbling athlete, they're like, well, we're just not going to tumble. We're going to work on the trampoline stuff. And then she's set back 3 months on her tumbling when she finally gets back to it. So there's a misconception that taking time away will make the fear go away. Now, there are times when you need to go build confidence elsewhere. If you are hitting a wall and hitting a wall and hitting a wall, work another skill, for goodness sake. But actually stopping it on purpose is not useful because you see nothing else is working, so you stop it. Here's why this doesn't work. There's a story of two wolves. This is a Native American proverb that says that there's a grandfather talking to his grandson. And the grandfather says to his grandson, there are two wolves fighting a battle inside of you. One is courageous and strong and kind and good. One is scared and mean and awful and lacks confidence. And the grandson says, Grandfather, which one will win? And he says, the one you feed. So if you are feeding that fear wolf by avoiding the skill, it gets bigger and bigger. The avoidance actually makes it harder to get started. So the farther that your athlete is from a success, the more impossible it feels. So what we're going to do today is help them come up with a step-by-step plan so that they can move through and start making those little successes so that they're not away from it. You have to walk into the fire a bit to get through it. You can't just wait till the fire goes out. It doesn't work that way with the brain. So we're going to build up that confidence wolf. We're going to give them tools to increase the confidence so that that fear wolf won't be as strong. Now, will the fear wolf still be there? Absolutely. This is a scary sport. And so I have parents who say, can we eliminate mental blocks completely? I'm like, yes, if they never move up a level. We will not have any fear if they're in level 3 for their entire life. You can be perfect and get 10s and not have any fear. If you have any goals of going beyond level 3, you're likely going to have fear. It's part of the game. It's why not everybody does this sport, because it's hard. And so every time they level up, their brain is going to give them are you sure? And so we want them to know how to say, yes, brain, and here's how. And when they have that, they're going to get afraid and they're going to not be afraid of the fear. They're going to go, okay, now I know exactly what to do. I have a step-by-step plan. So if you would like to give your athlete the tools to break through, that's what we're up to today. And here is the mental block breakthrough method. So there's 3 parts: collaboration, understanding, and confidence. This is, as far as you guys are concerned, this is where you come in. So understanding is the first part. And a lot of people get totally at their wits' end and they don't know what's happening and they just want to know why and what are you afraid of? And they're asking all these, they're asking questions. Oh no, what did I do? Okay. And so they go and get an honorary degree at Google University. Anyone here got their honorary degree at Google University around gymnastics sphere? Gymnastics mindset. I mean, you get on there and you're like, I got to figure this thing out. But then you get so much weird information that you're like, everyone should visualize. You should visualize, kid. And then they're like, that doesn't work for me. And you're like, it does. The internet said it would. And so you're like overwhelmed with the amount of information that's out there. And there's only a few things that you actually do need to understand. So understanding the fear, knowing that this is not something that they're choosing. The brain is reacting to a perceived threat. You don't actually need to know what that threat is in order to help them. It could be fear of injury. It could be they didn't eat enough today. It could be that they didn't get enough sleep. It could be that their friend was being rude. It could be that they don't talk to their coach and therefore they're afraid of their coach. It could be 1,000 things. And from Wednesday to Thursday, it will be different because an adolescent brain is an adolescent brain. So we don't need to know what they're afraid of. So you can actually stop asking what they're afraid of because we can just assume it's a threat to the adolescent brain. Whether it's real or not, it is happening in their brain and it is talking to their body. You want to understand what she's experiencing, which is she's not getting that ice pack because she wants to avoid the skill. She wants to do that skill more than anything, more than anyone. But her back legitimately is spasming when she thinks about going to beam. That was my story. My back would spasm on my way to beam to keep me safe from that back walkover and that back handspring. It was real. So understanding that and going, okay, she's not faking anything. She's not manipulating. She's not being lazy. This is the thing I hear from coaches and parents. They're just being lazy. They're not even trying. It's like, no, their brain is sending them into flight and freeze around this skill because it feels hopeless. Okay, your role, here it is. Here's the formula. Food, hugs, rides, tuition. That's it. That's it. If you never, ever talked about a skill in gymnastics ever again, it would be good. That is what she's experiencing. What she's experiencing. Yeah. Yes. Oh, and the nothing on the arrow. Yes. So your role: food, hugs, rides, tuition. Repeat after me. Food, hugs, rides, tuition. If that is all you do, you will have the best chance at a happy athlete who is not getting too much pressure on them. You get in the car and your question is, What would you like to eat? And what would you like to listen to? And that's it. And if they want to talk about it, you are all ears and you listen and you repeat back their words and you let them know that you understand, not you're fixing it. You're just repeating back. They say, I'm horrible. I had the worst day. And you go, oh my gosh, you feel horrible and like you had the worst day. Tell me more. And then they tell you and they tell you, and then you repeat back and they're like, well, I guess it wasn't the worst day. I did actually do okay here. And you'll find that when you actually just repeat their words back to them, they solve their own problems. It's amazing because they feel vulnerable enough and safe enough to go, actually, I really did like spend the most of the time in the bathroom because I didn't know what to do. And you're like, oh gosh, I have so done that before. I have been so afraid that I just went and sat in the bathroom, was overwhelmed, and I didn't know what to do. That's so hard, buddy. I'm so sorry that that happened to you today. What do you want to like? What do you think you want to do next? Like pizza, And that's the best way that you can support them. That's your role. Listening, feeding, driving, paying. That's it. So you can take pressure off yourself. You no longer have to be the family sports psychologist. You're just a listener, a really good listener. And if you're like me and you are a problem solver, you bite your tongue and repeat their words back and just let them feel understood. Because when an athlete feels understood, they feel more brave. When you just look at them and tilt your head and make a warm smile on your face, they go from freeze up into flight, up into calm. So just that, and coaches too, just changing the way that you look at them and dropping your shoulders and smiling and having warmth in your body and sending love to them will actually regulate their nervous system. It's cool. And hopefully we'll see that out here today. The coaches will stop and make eye contact and tilt their head and look and be like, hey, I love you and it's gonna be okay. Now I obviously don't know the kid, but like that's enough. In the yellow, it says stages of change. So a lot of people come to us at Perform Happy and they're like, fix my kid. But the kid's like, no, I'm good. It's fine. I'm cool. I don't need that. So in order to make change, they have to know that they have a problem and they have to be open to it. And then they have to be willing to take action. And so if your kid is like, I'm good, then don't push things, versus if they're like, mom, help, dad, help. What do I do? That's when you go, okay, let's get you some solutions. Otherwise, you're just listening and bonding. And the more that you build that relationship with them, the more that they're going to come to you and ask for advice, which is my favorite. I love giving advice. And then knowing what to say, which is really just listening. And then only focusing on what you can control will help her thrive and preserve your sanity. You can't control the competition season. You can't control her pain. You can't control her fear. You can't control any of it. So you're just, helping her get enough fuel in her body, helping her get some rest, helping her feel like you love her, even if she never does this skill ever again. The love will never change. Those are the things you can control. And I actually have people write lists of what can I control in this situation? What can I not? And then rip up the one that you can't control and toss it in the garbage and focus all your energy on what you can. And it's an exercise that parents can do with kids too. If you're feeling like, oh, we're so overwhelmed, well, write those lists and toss the one of the things you can't control. Okay, I'm going to zoom through these. Collaboration. So you cannot force an adolescent to do anything they don't want to do, true or false. Same with a 9-year-old, let me tell you, and a 6-year-old. I have a particularly strong-willed 6-year-old who there's nothing that kid's going to do if it's not her idea. It is their nature. They are supposed to be pushing away from you because they're going to launch out of the nest in a few years. And their brain has got a heightened appreciation for fear and threats because they're going to get pushed out of the cave into the tiger land as far as their brains are concerned. So they're like, everything's a threat and I am on my own and I have to do this myself and I don't want to know because they have to individuate from you. Otherwise they won't survive. So this is part of their developmental task is to push back and push back and push back. So if you're telling them what to do, how well is that going to go? Basically, they will push just because it's something to push against because it's in their nature. So instead of pushing them to the hopeful side, like be hopeful, this is going to be fun, we're going to be optimistic, be in the struggle and link arms and be like, this is rough, kid. And I love you and I believe in you and we're going to do this together. And then they get through the resistance and then they start to be open, but you're not pushing them across. You're just sitting with them on the bench of this is hard and letting them learn that they can get to the other side of a hard thing, which is going to make them incredible adults. When they know, oh my gosh, those 3 years of fear that I struggled with in gymnastics that led to me reaching my goal, I can do anything. You never see a happier kid than the kid who breaks through the other end of their mental block. It's like that, they're happier than the first time they made the skill because they finally overcame something incredible. So instead of helping, like trying to tell them what to do, you help become the co-detective. You're like, let's figure this out. What do you think? I don't know. You ask these open-ended questions, even if you totally know the answer. You're just asking them to try to figure out what within themselves so that they can solve their own problems. What do you think? What do you want to talk to the coach? I don't know. Maybe that's the right thing. Maybe that's not. What do you think? You're constantly giving them the decision instead of them looking at you and being like, what do I do? What do I do? A lot of these kids look at their coach, huh? What do I do? What do I do? So you get to be like, I don't know. What do you think? And then if they make the wrong decision at age 10, that's fine. If they make it at 24, that's less fine. It's still fine. Realistically, they're going to learn. We're all making bad decisions all the time and we learn from them. And then you want to model the mindset that you want them to have. So if you want them to have a growth mindset that's just in the challenge and just taking it one day at a time and not stressed out, then don't be like, oh my gosh, there's only 2 weeks. What are we going to do? You're like, hey, I'm just going to be here right now in my sneakers, breathing, having a cup of coffee, loving my kid. And we're just going to put one foot in front of the other, and wherever we get is perfect. And if you want them to think that way, then you got to model that. Even if you don't see them for that many hours, that energy that you bring to that car ride, they feel it. Okay, have you ever said, we have tried everything and nothing is working? Raise your hand if you've ever said this about anything. We tried everything. This is a fixed mindset statement. This is based on there being a limited amount of solutions to a problem. And so if you have said this, which is, most humans have, then you're operating from a fixed mindset. That is really the mindset issue. So down at the bottom, it says a fixed mindset is one of the biggest causes of mental blocks. They feel like I should be here and I need this now. And what if I don't? And maybe I'm not cut out for this. I'm not good enough. Versus being in a growth mindset where they go, I can rise to any challenge step by step, one day at a time with help. So that's where you want to be coming from. So check in with yourself. Are you operating from a place of possibility of, yes, a 5'10" gymnast who starts at age 8 can absolutely be, have her dream and be an optional level gymnast? Or are you going, no, you're too tall, too old, and too scared, so we might as well just cut it? I have a lot of parents who are like, when can we just tell them they have to quit? I'm like, oh God, please don't. Please don't. That is their decision. Once you have entered the world of competitive gymnastics, you are on the train until they want to get off of it. That's my preference for the sake of relationships. So things to ask yourself. What if she doesn't do the skill today? Can you be okay? What if she doesn't do it this month? What if she doesn't do it ever? Would you still love them? What if effort is lacking today? Can you be okay? What if effort is lacking all month? All year? Can you be okay? Once you separate yourself from that, you will be a better soft place to land where they can come to you and say what's actually going on. Because we all know these kids are not slackers, right? These kids are not slackers. Nobody who shows up and does competitive gymnastics is a lazy kid. They all have their straight A's and they all train however many hours, and these are not lazy kids. So if they're lacking effort, there's usually something else going on. And then think about what's considered good enough in your house. Is your perfectionism creating stress? Because if they can feel good enough today, and if you can feel good enough today, that opens up the future. Whereas if you're never good enough, which is most of these kids are perfectionists. Raise your hand if you have a perfectionist kid. Yeah, that means they never, ever, ever feel good enough. So if we can get them feeling great today in the what is, they're more open and the resistance leaves their body and they can do their skills better. Okay, so here's that mantra I already previewed. From Happy Parents mantra: food, hugs, rides, tuition. That is your role. And then I have some examples, but we're running a little shorter on time. Okay, so this is the mental block breakthrough method. I call it the confidence sandwich. A lot of mental trainers will just emphasize confidence. We're just going to get you confident and then you're going to go. Well, there are 2 things that have to be there in order for that confidence to really hold. It's a foundation of awareness and trust on top. So I'll talk about what that means. So this is the awareness phase. When someone comes to us and is like, we want to break through a mental block. We want to get through our fear. We want to perform better under pressure. The first thing they need is awareness. So they need to be able to identify clues. And if you can't identify clues, you are on a roller coaster where you never know when you're going to get scared again. You don't know when the other shoe's going to drop, and it feels very random. And so for me, when I was a gymnast, I just randomly would flip my back tuck some days and randomly not. That's, as far as I was concerned, it was completely random. What I have learned with these kids is that it is not random at all. And everything has an antecedent. There's always something that comes first. So when a kid is like, I had this horrible setback, I'm like, good, great. This is excellent news. We are going to get so wise from this, and it's so fresh that we'll be able to find clues. So you find those clues on the good days. Hey, what set you up for success today? You did great. Oh, okay. You got enough sleep and you had a good lunch and you were happy because your friend gave you fuzzy socks, and like, that's so awesome. Wow, today was kind of rough. What do you think didn't set you up for success? Got any clues? Any guesses? Oh, okay. You didn't get enough sleep. I say sleep a lot because literally if they got 9 hours of sleep, most kids would not be afraid. But the reality is what it is with sleep and kids and gymnasts. But they ideally, maybe it's not with you, it's in a journal where they're writing, and they'll be journaling today, learning this skill, but they can figure out, oh, what didn't go well? Okay, did I learn from that? And they're learning from the good days, they're learning from the bad days. And then they know when they step up to the bar, if they have like a shaky flyaway and they feel weird, they immediately go tell their coach. They immediately do a drill. They they front load their confidence, and then they don't ever get a block. This is the key. This is how you eliminate mental blocks, is by increasing awareness. So kids who are recurring mental blocks over and over, they're getting afraid, they're losing their skills. It's because they lack the awareness, and awareness is uncomfortable. So that's something that we seek to give them a big, strong foundation of, and then let them know it's normal to be uncomfortable. And then you guys, your job is to just reassure them, of course it's uncomfortable, and be the soft place to land. So after they have that hard day, you're just like, oh, buddy, I love you. Here's your food. And coach's job is to make them uncomfortable. That's their job, pushing them out of their comfort zone. And if you are a soft place to land at home, they will have more capacity to be uncomfortable in the gym. Okay, confidence is phase 2. This takes time and consistency. So where you come in is you praise their progress and their effort. Now, if you see that they have put in 1% effort today, then you throw a party for that 1% that you saw. They didn't try at all on bars, but they were really working on vault. You praise the heck out of vault. If they are, not making progress, you praise their determination for showing up. You praise their strategy. Hey, looks like you tried something different today. That was a cool drill. Maybe they fell on their face doing it, but like, hey, that's so cool that you're being creative to work through this. You're praising any little thing you can see. Now, I have a kid with ADHD, high anxiety, and there's a lot of annoying things, a lot of annoying things. And I am being trained to praise the good. Okay, yes, it took you 45 minutes to get your shoes on, but you walked in the direction of your shoes. And I'm going to be like, yes, you're moving towards your shoes. This is awesome. Oh, thank goodness. I'm so proud of you. That's like, it's hard to be like, oh my gosh, you're driving me completely insane. But wow, you sat at the table for like a whole minute before you got up. Like, it's whatever we can find that is praisable, praise it. Anything you want to continue, you praise. Anything you don't want to continue, just don't give it so much attention, is what I'm learning. Help them get in a good mood. If they love boba, if they love their fuzzy socks, if they love their Taylor Swift, if they, when you're on the way to the gym, let it be a fun thing. Let it be, before meets, what do you like to do? You need a dance party? Do you need more glitter in your hair? Like, the mood is something that increases confidence, and you guys do have some control over that. If you're in a mood, that absolutely informs their mood. So if you get yourself, like, get up and exercise at the hotel before you go, like, get the good chemicals flowing so that you can be in a good mood, and then you can let go of theirs if they're not. And don't compare. Oh, and then sleep and nutrition, huge. The biggest controllables. Obviously, you cannot make your child eat. I do know that one as well, but you can give them good stuff, and you can encourage it, and you can give them education on it. And don't compare them. If they have a sibling, absolutely do not compare them to their sibling. Don't compare them to the kids on their team. Don't even compliment the other kids on their team in front of them, because it makes them feel less than. You can compliment them all you want. Like, I love a good positive gossip of like, oh my gosh, did you see how amazing that kid was at practice? hey, did you hear? Like that coach is really killing it today. Like positive gossip, I love, but you don't want to be comparing in front of your kid. And then self-trust. This one is really tricky for high achieving folks. Anyone here consider themselves a high achiever? You perfectionists won't raise your hand because you're like, not enough. But you have expectations for your child, for their life, for what success means in your family. And expectations are the biggest barrier to self-trust. If you go in and think, I have to get a 9, I have to win, I have to qualify, it creates tension. You over try, you push too hard, and you malfunction. So, parents, if you're like, you have to, if you don't get in and we're not competing, and I've heard so many stories of like, if you don't get your vault, then we're quitting. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, then you can't listen to your brain. You have to just, mow the weeds and make it happen versus actually building lasting confidence through knowing what you need and stay in the present. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't be stuck in the past. Oh no, she's going to get injured again. Oh gosh, it happened before. She's going to freak out. She's going to lose it. I'm so scared. That's the past. The future, what if, what if, what if? Just be here in your sneakers. Everything's okay right now. You got everything you need. And if you can continue doing that, then they'll be able to do that. And then just remind them you believe in them. Yes, you can go and get a college scholarship, you 14-year-old tall level 6. Try. I'm here in your corner. Nobody was in my corner. So when your athlete learns how to trust herself again, she'll see in herself what you have seen all along. And that's the absence of expectations that gets you there. I even have kids write their expectations on a piece of paper before walking into a meet. I have to get this. My mom wants this. I have to, and then you wad it up and you toss it in the trash and you be totally present and you approach your routines with curiosity. Hey, I wonder what's possible today. You're optimistic but you're coming from a place of possibility instead of I must. Okay, I'm gonna speed through these. This is just a little cutie in our program who had to get a lot of spots and a lot of mats before she was ready to rock. Okay, so if you take away one thing, I want you to know that you can help your athlete overcome her mental block without her resenting you for being too involved. So do we want to be Nancy, who keeps trying to motivate her athlete, who wonders how long she can keep this up and stay positive if nothing changes? Or do we want to know exactly what to say, what not to say when your daughter struggles and inspire her to take her own initiative? So there is a QR code. I'm going to scooch it up there. This has a ton of free resources. So get in there, get whatever downloads, and I don't even remember what's in there, but it's a bunch of stuff that you can share with friends and use and look them up.